Welcome back to the NFL 2022 playoff predictions, and we are starting here from week 12 and forecasting the NFL season using the playoff machine, predicting every matchup and ending up with a playoff scenario. So let's get started with this week's games. I will refer to you to this week's betting locks and game predictions for that, where we give a detailed analysis of all of the games here. So let's move into week 13, where we've got some notable games in the Buffalo Bills playing at the New England Patriots. I'm going to give Buffalo the bounce back there to continue their winning ways after that 2-game slide earlier this season. Then we've got Tennessee at the Eagles, and I'm giving Tennessee that game. I think this will be a shocking upset to some, but I think that the Eagles are susceptible to the type of game that the Titans can play here. They've got Tannehill back, so they're playing a bit better. I think that they can go on the road and beat the Eagles in a similar style that the Commanders did to win that game. Going down the line, we've got the Falcons over the Steelers. Pretty inconsequential game there, but Atlanta is in the playoffs this week. I will mention that. The Ravens beat the Broncos pretty easily there. Green Bay goes on the road, beats a reeling Chicago with possibly an injured Fields. Then Cleveland gets Deshaun back, and that is a storyline for this playoff predictions video, as Deshaun could elevate the play of Cleveland. Could they get back into it? We'll see. Will it be too much? Then Jets at Vikings. That game has major playoff implications, as you see Jets at the 7th seed after this game and Minnesota at the 2. Then New York at the 6th seed after beating Washington at home. Tampa Bay at the 4 in the NFC after beating the Saints in that divisional game there. Dallas beating the Colts. They're fortunate to have the Colts at home. Of course, playing in Lucas Oil is a difficult place to play. Raiders, we have getting the victory here over the Chargers. They played them pretty close last time. We'll see if they can regress the mean at home there. Bengals at home against the Chiefs. This is a pretty shocking one to some, but I think that the reigning Super Bowl participants out of the AFC have another defeat of the Chiefs in them. The Chiefs did not measure up to play against Buffalo. I think that Cincinnati can pull off what might shock some here and beat the Chiefs. Cincy remains at the 6th seed, while Kansas City falls to the 4. The Niners, we have beating the red-hot Dolphins team. Miami would drop to the 5th seed, and San Francisco would also be 8-4, but at the 3rd seed in the NFC, winning their division. Seahawks, not in here right now, but they'd get the win on the road at the Rams. And moving into week 14, quickly, we've got Philadelphia staying at 11-2 with their win on the road over the 7-seed Giants, who dropped to 8-5. Notice that there are a few bye weeks this week, including the Commanders, who would have had to play the Giants twice in a row pretty much on their schedule with the bye week in between. Speaking of that NFC East race, Dallas holds on with a win over the Texans at home in that Texas rivalry. Then Tampa Bay loses at the Niners. That's going to be an interesting matchup, but it doesn't really hurt Tampa Bay too much, as they're pretty much locked in that 4 seed. Winning this game could give them a shot at the 3 seed, but I just think the Niners are a lot better here. You've got the Raiders winning at the Rams. That might come into play down the road. And the Dolphins winning at the Chargers, which is definitely a consequential game for how the Chargers season might finish up. We'll see if they can get healthy and maybe win that one. And Minnesota stays at the 2nd seed with a win over Detroit. Moving on to week 15, we have the Niners losing at the Seahawks in a brutal divisional game. The Niners have not been good in recent years at Seattle, so I have the Niners perfect NFC West record ending there, but they still hold the divisional spot. They're tied technically at the 9-5 record, but they hold the divisional edge over Seattle at the moment, so they remain at the 3 and 6 seed respectively. Minnesota remains at the 2 seed with a win over the Colts. The Colts kind of get brutalized with their home-away splits down the stretch here. Cleveland wins a close one over the now 4th seed Ravens, who go to 10-4. The Cleveland Browns played them pretty close earlier with Jacoby Brissett. I think Deshaun Watson could be the difference maker there. Green Bay wins over the Rams in a seemingly inconsequential game. Philadelphia maintains their 1 seed with a win over the Bears. The Bengals go on the road to beat the Buccaneers, who fall to 7-7. Cincinnati stays at 8-6 here. Then Saints win against the Falcons at home in that divisional matchup, and the Chargers beat the Titans, while Miami loses to the Bills on the road and evens up that season series at 1-1. So our playoff remains pretty unchanged. New York remains in the 7 seed in both conferences there. Let's move on to week 16, where we have the Jets winning and staying in the 7 seed. Same thing goes for the New York Giants, who actually lose to the number 1 seed Minnesota Vikings, but stay in that NFC 7 seed. As you can see, the NFC is quite a bit worse than the AFC here. The Niners stay at the 3 seed with a win, and Seattle loses pace with them with a loss at Kansas City, who remains the 2 seed. In the AFC, again, Buffalo stays at the 1 seed because of their tiebreaker. They also win this week at Chicago. The Eagles lose their second one against Dallas, so they split this season series. And this is a very consequential game for the division. Most will be saying that this game will decide the division. I don't really think that, but we'll see what happens down the road here. That might be giving away too much. Then we have the Dolphins at home against Green Bay, prevailing there. And the Ravens stay at the 4 seed with a win over the contender Falcons. Also of note, Cincinnati wins at New England. That is a controversial pick. I could see that one going either way, but we're going to have Cincinnati for the purpose of this video. Moving on to this second to last week here, and we've got plenty of good games. Dallas loses to Tennessee to put them right back out of that division race. This is going to be one of the best games of the season. This is a very pro-Titans model that we've set up right now, but I think the Titans can get this one done. They move into a 3-way tie for that 2 seed. Of course, Buffalo is edging it out right now, while Dallas falls to the 5 seed, and the Eagles win against the Saints moves them up to the 1 seed after utilizing their tiebreaker to the Vikings. Why is that? Because the Vikings lose at the Packers. I think that the Packers can rally and win this one. Not sure how close they will be to the playoff picture at this point. We have the Niners beating the Raiders to stay at the 3 seed. They're about 2 games back, and then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are about 2 games back of them, even after beating the Panthers. So we'll see what implications that has in Week 18. As for the Dolphins, I do not have them being able to get the win at the Patriots. I think it's just a tough place to play. We have New York prevailing against the road-bound Colts. Again, they have a pretty brutal schedule here. And elsewhere, we have the Chargers winning and the Ravens winning also in the AFC. So that brings us to the final week. And in the official prediction, this will be our playoff scenario, picking every game right now. So you see that Atlanta jumps into the 7th seed as a result of New York falling, and we'll say how that happens right now. The Giants play at the Eagles. That is a brutal 18th game, and look at that NFC 1 seed. It is the Eagles. They need to play for this game to beat Minnesota and not let them have the edge. We have Minnesota getting the win on the road at Chicago, so the Eagles need to follow suit in order to be able to use their tiebreaker over the Vikings, and I have them doing that at New York's expense. I have the Falcons beating the Bucs because I see the Bucs resting a lot of players in this game. Either way you do it, the Bucs cannot lose the division. In fact, this is the worst result for them because technically they're tied with Atlanta, but due to the tiebreaker, Tampa Bay still takes the division, so this game really does not matter to them. Again, they cannot pass the Niners, who, by the way, beat the Cardinals 12-5. They'll play against Seattle at home. Seattle, it doesn't really matter what they did, but they did win. And Dallas loses to Washington because that game didn't matter. Again, Dallas is clinched into the 5 seed, so we'll give the Commanders a little win there to put a smile on their face before the end of the season. We're going to have Miami beating the Jets, and then also the Titans win against the Jaguars to set up the 2-way tie with the Bills, which they do not prevail in, as the Bills have beat the Pats in this week. So the seeds of note, again, Atlanta winning the 7th seed and the Jets holding on. But wait, we have a different scenario, because if we just change one game in this scenario, and that is the Chiefs-Raiders game, remember, the Chiefs are the number 1 seed in this scenario, and the New York Jets are the 7 seed. If we just change that to a Raiders win, which is the only thing preventing the Chiefs from a perfect divisional record, we end up with Las Vegas at Kansas City. Las Vegas jumps the Jets in what would be a, I believe, 5-way tie at 9-8 with the Chargers, the Browns, the Jets, and Vegas at least in there. And then Buffalo, of course, jumps to the 1 seed because they are able to exert their tiebreaker on Kansas City. Kansas City drops down to the 2, and Vegas takes the 7. So I just wanted to throw that little wrinkle in there that it's not necessarily over, as the Raiders have a pretty favorable schedule down the stretch despite being very bad at the moment. Just one game at the end of the season could decide their fate in the playoff. So thank you for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe for future NFL content just like this. Thank you for watching.